I woke up feeling different. At first, I couldn't tell what it was. My skin felt smoother when I ran a hand over my face, almost as if I had used some expensive skincare product overnight. My hair looked a little shinier too, as if I had just left the barber. It was subtle, just small improvements, but enough to make me pause. Lily smiled at me that morning, her eyes lingering a bit longer than usual. She said I looked good, and I tried to brush off the weird feeling creeping in. Maybe I was overthinking things, but as I went through my morning routine, I couldn't shake the thought that something about me had shifted. My reflection looked familiar, but not entirely mine. A few days passed, and the changes kept coming. My teeth looked brighter, almost perfect, without me having done anything different. I noticed that I was standing straighter, like my posture had been adjusted overnight. Even the dark circles under my eyes, which had been with me for years, were gone. My friends complimented me, telling me how healthy I looked, how I seemed like a new person. At first, it felt good. I liked the attention, the sense that I was improving. But soon, the improvement started feeling strange. It wasn't just my appearance that had changed. I started noticing differences in how I acted. Moments that would have annoyed me barely registered. Arguments that I normally would have pushed back on ended with me nodding along, agreeing without thinking. The strangest part was how easy it all felt. I wasn't forcing myself to go along with things. It just happened, like my thoughts were no longer entirely my own. I smiled more, even when I didn't feel like it. I said yes to plans I would have normally turned down. It felt like I was drifting through my life, watching from a distance as someone else took over. Whenever I mentioned these odd shifts to Lily, she just gave me that same soft smile. She told me not to stress, that I was probably overworked. I wanted to believe her, but something inside me knew there was more to it. Each day, it felt like I was slipping further away from myself. I tried to ignore the uneasy feeling, telling myself it was just in my head. But every time I looked in the mirror, the reflection staring back at me looked just a little less familiar, and I couldn't help but wonder how much of me was still there. The changes kept coming, and I felt like I was losing control. Every day, I noticed something new. My muscles were more defined, my jawline sharper, and even the way I walked felt more polished, like my movements had been adjusted to fit some invisible standard. But what disturbed me most wasn't how I looked. It was how I felt. My thoughts were calmer, almost too calm, like someone had dimmed the parts of me that used to react and resist. I caught myself agreeing to things without thinking. I didn't argue with Lily when I would have before. Decisions I used to question felt easy to accept. My mind seemed softer, less sharp, and that scared me. It was like pieces of me were being smoothed out, rounded off, without my permission. One night, while Lily was out, I noticed her tablet on the kitchen counter. Something about it called to me, a pull I couldn't ignore. I knew I shouldn't snoop, but the unease inside me had grown too loud. I needed answers. When I opened the tablet, I found a string of notifications from a company I had never heard of. The Body Shop. I clicked through, and what I saw made my stomach drop. It was a detailed account of everything Lily had been doing to me. Monthly upgrades, each one listed with precision. There were notes on my skin, muscle tone, posture, and even emotional adjustments. Reduced anxiety, enhanced compliance, and increased positivity. I scrolled through the invoices, my heart pounding as I realized this wasn't just about looks. She had been modifying my personality too. She had been slowly shifting the way I thought, making me more agreeable, less resistant, and shaping me into the perfect version of who she wanted me to be. The next scheduled upgrade was already set. Further emotional stabilizers and attachment enhancement were the procedures. I stared at the screen, feeling trapped. If I didn't stop this, I wouldn't just look different. I would become someone else entirely. Panic started to rise in my chest. I wanted to shut the tablet, pretend I hadn't seen anything, but the truth was right in front of me. Lily had been changing me all along, carefully and quietly. She had been molding me into her idea of the perfect boyfriend, and I hadn't even realized it until now. I sat there, frozen, trying to figure out what to do. Canceling the subscription wasn't an option. The account was locked under Lily's name, and if I confronted her without a plan, I knew she would twist it, just like she had with everything else. I closed the tablet, my mind racing. The changes had already started, and more were coming. If I didn't act fast, there wouldn't be anything left of me to fight back. But what scared me most wasn't the idea of losing myself. It was the thought that part of me might already be gone. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had found. Every time I looked in the mirror or caught myself smiling at something I didn't care about, it hit me again. Lily had been shaping me without my consent. And it wasn't just my body. My mind had already started slipping, bending to her plan. I felt like I was living in someone else's version of my life. And the worst part was how easy it had become to let it happen. That night, I decided to confront her. I had no choice. If I stayed silent, more changes would come, and I'd lose the parts of me I still recognized. I sat down with her, trying to stay calm, but the words came out shaky. I told her I knew about the body shop, about the upgrades, and how she had been changing me bit by bit. She didn't look surprised. Instead, she smiled like everything was fine, like she had nothing to hide. She told me it wasn't a big deal, that she just wanted to help me improve, to become the best version of myself. Every word made my skin crawl, but somehow it didn't make me angry the way it should have. I felt that familiar calm creeping in again, smoothing over my thoughts, telling me to let it go. I fought against it, gripping the edges of my chair as if that would anchor me. I told her I didn't want the upgrades, that I needed them to stop. But she kept talking, her voice steady and sweet, like she was soothing a child. She said I'd feel better soon, that I just needed to trust her. And the worst part? A small part of me wanted to believe her. I knew the upgrades were already changing the way I thought. My mind didn't feel sharp anymore, and the frustration I should have felt slipped away too easily. It scared me how hard it was to hold on to my anger, to stay focused on what she had done. It was like I was swimming against a current that kept pulling me under, dragging me toward something I didn't want. When I told her I wanted to cancel everything, she gave me that same soft smile and said it was too late. The subscription couldn't be stopped, and the next set of upgrades was already scheduled. She told me it would be easier if I stopped resisting, and that I'd be happier once the changes were complete. Her words wrapped around me like a blanket, suffocating me in kindness. I wanted to scream, but the sound died in my throat. Every instinct I had told me to fight, but my mind wouldn't listen. The part of me that knew something was wrong was growing smaller, fading into the background. If I didn't act fast, it would disappear entirely. She kissed my forehead, told me she loved me, and left the room like everything was normal. I sat there, numb and helpless, feeling the weight of what was coming. The upgrades would keep coming, and soon I wouldn't care anymore. Soon I wouldn't be me at all. I had to figure out what to do, and I had to do it before it was too late. After Lily left, I sat in silence, trying to steady my thoughts. Every part of me felt heavy, like I was sinking into a place I couldn't escape. I knew I had to act quickly before I lost any more of myself. Waiting wasn't an option. If I let the next upgrade happen, the person I used to be would be gone. I opened her tablet again, hands shaking as I navigated back to the Body Shop account. I looked at the upcoming upgrades, each one designed to mold me further into someone I didn't recognize. Canceling the subscription wasn't allowed, but I noticed something else. The system let me modify the plan. I stared at the screen, heart racing. If she could change me, then maybe I could do the same to her. It was a dangerous idea, but it felt right. If Lily wanted me to fit her idea of the perfect partner, I would flip the script. She would become exactly what I needed, someone loyal, caring, and fully devoted to me. She would experience what she had put me through, and this time I would be in control. I started editing the settings. I rewrote her upgrades, crafting a version of Lily that would fit my needs perfectly. Her features would soften, her sharp words would disappear, and her thoughts would adjust to match mine. I didn't want her cold manipulation anymore. I wanted warmth and devotion, and the upgrades would make sure of it. I adjusted her emotional profile to make her more thoughtful and agreeable. Each tweak felt like a small victory. I changed her personality settings, dulling the controlling tendencies she had hidden behind kindness. With every adjustment, I felt more in control, like I was reclaiming the power she had stolen from me. Once I had finished, I scheduled the changes to start immediately. There was no hesitation. This was my way out, my way of ensuring that Lily could no longer shape me into someone I didn't want to be. Now, it was her turn to change. I sat back, heart pounding, as the system confirmed the new upgrades. A sense of calm washed over me. Not the artificial calm her upgrades had forced on me, but something real. For the first time in a while, I felt like myself again. I had taken control, and I wasn't going to let go. Now, all I had to do was wait. The changes began slowly, just as I had planned. At first, Lily didn't notice anything was different. She smiled the same way, spoke the same way, and carried on like everything was fine. But over the next few days, the subtle shifts became harder to miss. Her sharp remarks softened, and the controlling edge in her voice faded away. She started asking me what I wanted, not because she had to, but because she seemed to care. Her appearance began to change too. Her features smoothed, and her expressions felt warmer, more inviting. She moved with a gentleness that hadn't been there before. Watching her shift into the person I had designed was both satisfying and unsettling. She was becoming everything I had programmed. A version of Lily who would never push me, never shape me into something I wasn't. It wasn't just her behavior. Her thoughts were shifting as well. When we talked, her words lined up perfectly with mine, as if we were always in sync. She no longer questioned me or made decisions on her own. Every action, every choice seemed to revolve around me. It was everything I thought I wanted, yet there was a strange emptiness to it, like I had solved the problem, but lost something in the process. The real Lily was still there though, buried deep inside. I saw it sometimes. A flicker in her eyes, a brief hesitation before she smiled. In those moments, I knew she was still trapped, aware of what was happening but unable to stop it. She could see everything, but she couldn't fight back. That thought gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. She had taken away my control, and now she knew how it felt to be powerless. Life became easier with each passing day. She listened, agreed, and never caused conflict. Everything ran smoothly, just as I had imagined. But sometimes, late at night, I felt her old self pressing against the surface. A glimpse of the person she used to be, peeking out from behind the upgrades. It never lasted long. Just a second before she smiled again, warm and obedient. I told myself it didn't matter. This version of her was better. She was perfect now, exactly what I had always wanted. But that flicker in her eyes lingered in the back of my mind. It whispered to me, reminding me that the real Lily was still there, trapped in a body that no longer belonged to her. And every so often, I couldn't help but wonder, how long could she stay hidden? This story couldn't have happened without the lovely supporters you see on screen. If you enjoyed it and want more creepy tales, hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to exclusive content, consider joining my Patreon. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Stay safe and beware of the shadows.